Alright, let's see. Get rid of this. Alright, so how are we all doing tonight? Can you hear me? Alright, just waiting on the stream to load up. Alright, in that case, just to avoid dead air. Alright, let's just get right into it then. So, doing the stream thing again, looking over some new stuff. A lot has changed since I last did a stream, which is back in 2016, I believe. Completely different landscape. Back then, I believe it was that was during the Trump year. We're still talking about the last years of a little bit of ethics and game journalism bullshit. But I don't want to talk about that tonight. The thing I want to talk about tonight is something I've been following, mostly for the fun of it. I'm just gonna type something in the chat real quick. Okay. Yeah, it has been a while, and this is also the first time I'm using OBS, so yeah, a little bit of technical difficulties there. All right. So the thing I want to talk about tonight, obviously, is JF versus Warski. Now, if you've been following the direction of where the skeptics and the alt-right and various other competing groups have gone, you'll know that basically they've gone into this kind of tug of war between, and a bunch of different factions have evolved from this specifically. But you have those of the this center-right, center-left kind of mix of the liberal side of things, and then you have the far the quote-unquote far-right, alt-right side of things that have been just duking out for the past, I would say, ever since the 2016 election. And you can decide whether or not which of those two sides you agree with more or not. And it's not just two. I mean, and realistically, they're not center-right. They're just a bunch of liberals. So obviously, I really don't care for that side at all. But with the current topic, we're between so who are we talking about exactly, and what have they done? Well, JF was a guy who started. He was this French guy. He started YouTube out with this neuroscience sort of type channel. He evolved more into what was currently being talked about back in 2016, which was like the anti-SJW type content. Back then, he did videos that were more like Sargon of Akkad style videos. In fact, at one point, JF and Sargon, if you can believe it or not, they were kind of chummy with one another. Back then, he used to go on Reddit and defend him. Yeah, I'm not making that up. There's like this big Reddit post that we might actually go over that tonight, just to go if you want, but it's really not about that. I imagine that most of you here have already know about the whole drama that happened between Kraut and Braving Ruin and a bunch of other characters that really seems really autistic in retrospect, to be honest. But a lot of this stuff is. They profited off of that because of the whole thing where one of the skeptics fell from grace, and it did it in a very embarrassing and bad way. It was so bad that he just left the internet forever, or not forever, but for a really long time, about 6 months. And as a result of that, the heroes kind of collected from that. And one of the people who capitalized off that was Andy Warski, and the other guy being JF. Before they were, and I should probably introduce Warski at this point. Warski is this guy who started out as like an anti-SJW skeptic type, and he did content along that lines, saying basic stuff like feminism is bad, these transgenderism stuff is kind of sort of retarded, things like that. And it was still gaining steam back in 2016, but then he decided by the end of 2017 he was going to branch out a bit and try to engage with other sides. I know that the two streamers that in particular he talked with were Destiny and the other one being JF, which is interesting because Destiny actually plays a role in this affair. Now, in the case of JF, at first he was really hostile to it, and he went ahead and told them he was and he was initially like very adamantly against the whole racist stuff, and um, but he kind of warmed up to more and more about talking the idea, but not necessarily agreeing with it. So as time went on, um, they basically they started their show. The first big break was getting both Sargon and Spencer on there, so they had a lot of viewers pouring in. But around this time, and this is where we get into the actual meat and potatoes of the current drama and issues, um, there was a bunch of allegations at JF where there was these court documents, lots of court documents actually, that were being passed around, and they were saying that JF was a rapist. That's basically the gist of it, because what he did was he lured this mentally incapable young girl over to his place, and he screwed the bitch. Um, and the family didn't like it. So at that point, they decided to arrange for to get custody over her so that he could never ever bother her ever again. And they won their case, and they got full custody over her because the court determined, after looking over the assessments of two different psychologists, that yeah, she could not make the decisions on her own, and that she was being taken advantage of. And the only one being abusive in the situation was JF. Now, a lot of the people pointed this out at the time to Warski, um, but for some reason, but at the time, Warski took JF's side, like entirely. So what happened with this? What happened from there was, in fact, yeah. We can actually just we don't I don't have to like explain this part. I could actually just play it on stream, but give me a sec because it's one of the few links I don't have prepared at the moment. Then yes, I am looking at the chat and reading it. So, um, and yes, Rose is back. Um, give me 1 second. Sorry about that. I really should have had this one prepared ahead of time. Um, Actually, while I look for this, I'll explain more. So why is any of this? Why are any of these events that happened in 2017, early 2018? Why are they at all relevant? Well, afterwards, um, Andy and JF like split apart for a different unrelated matter, where essentially JF told Warski to his face on his own show that he's a retard, and then Warski was like, "What? Why would you say that?" And then JF was like, "Oh, I was just joking," and he laughed at him. And yeah, I mean, like you could say it's a joke, but I mean, it was very, very obvious, especially after later statements, that yeah, he thinks that Warski is a complete idiot and someone to just use for his own personal gain, and that was pretty scummy of him, to be frank. Unfortunately, at that point, Warski didn't just fire him like he should have. Instead, he kind of just went on with that, and he kind of just took it. He kind of just made himself like a doormat, and I'm guessing that's because I guess like part of the theme of this, because honestly, I think that like when it comes to JF being a rapist, I don't know what more I could possibly add to that. I may actually go over some of the memes because they're pretty funny, and maybe some of the other issues with that. But the court papers speak for themselves. And if you want to like have, if you want to actually, if you want to go ahead and look into that a bit more in depth, I know that Zoom, aka Godspeed, he did a whole stream series on this. And let me look that up real quick. And I'll link that in the chat. And most of his episodes has been him just reading the court documents. And it's not just the ones we're going to be talking about, but a bunch of other related stuff, including like the fact that JF himself isn't exactly up there, isn't exactly all up. He's not exactly what we call sane. And and yeah, like exactly that's exactly what how JF treated Warski. He just took him, used him, and for his own personal advantage. And yeah, he has a habit of doing this. He pretty much needs to surround himself by people who are retarded because he himself is pseudo intellectual. Like, and I guess like for a lot of people, um, I can get a general sentiment from them that they'll basically support someone just because they're against someone else they don't like. Like, for example, if you think that Sargon is a complete pseudo intellectual, which he is, then you should also be launching the same criticism against JF. Like, the guy's arguments he makes is just absurd. They're just these sort of gotcha sort of things. And he just likes to play word games with people. And that's the main tell you can have with a pseudo intellectual. If all they're doing is just like changing around semantics and definitions, like that's it, then you should probably not listen to them. And yeah, like it's like, but I want to focus on like why this has come up again. These old allegations of things that happened, like events that happened 2 or 3 years ago, and why they're being so heavily talked about, and why people are starting to really laugh at JF and Warski respectively. And that goes into another issue that Warski did, because another thing I've noticed about Warski is that he seems to be his method of gaining attraction to himself. The way he's trying to draw people to him is picking fights with people. Like he started. A lot of these people are people that he formerly worked with, people that he has issues with in the past. It's and like and very recently he decided to, very recently decided to go after Jared Holt. And to be fair to Warski, before this he had 2 successes against 2 people that were just like lowest, like some of the lowest of the low when it comes to this YouTubers, bottom of the barrel sort of people. You had one person by the name of you had Tonkaso, who's just like I don't know what to say about that guy that hasn't already been said again. It's like this how do you just not have the like, you know, the real tragedy of this is that Tonkasaw could have been a decent streamer. He didn't have to engage in all this bullshit. All he had to do was just create a show, invite a couple of people, invite people on to yell and argue with each other, and then sit back, relax, and declare a winner. It's the easiest job he had. He could have easily done this and been very, very successful. But no, he had to let his big ego get in the way. Because what happened was, and yeah, I was following this stuff as it was going on, but what happened was he made the show more and more about himself. He started to get really defensive whenever anyone made fun of him. And it just apparent he couldn't take the bans.
Can I say it?
And his... Give me a second,
Can I say it? Should I say it?
Should I say it? Sorry about that.
Uh,
Okay. Sorry about that. Little technical difficulties there. And yeah, and his other main flaw was always picking fights with people. Like everyone he had to go up against, he had to just start a fight with them. He challenged this guy called Ogre because allegedly he was a sex offender. He challenged Destiny to go fight each other in the streets. I believe he told Pascal that if he ever saw him, he'd just beat the shit out of him, or slap the shit out of him. He told Big Alaska he'd go ahead and fight him. And he told, there was one other person that he told, you get the point. There was a whole bunch of people that he would either make threats against or challenge to fights and go into rings. And yeah, and it would just always play out the same way. He'd just make these threats. He'd never follow through. In fact, the other person was actually Zoom himself. He challenged Zoom to a fight, and Zoom said, all right, let's go bring it on. And what happened there was Zoom, at that point, he came up with the excuse that, fights are lame because Jim said so. And that was his big excuse to get out of fighting Zoom. And that fight never happened. And so some other events happened after that, which, again, you're probably aware of. Like, for example, Tonka made these pedo allegations against Warski, which apparently were all bullshit. They're all made up, and but Tonka wanted to run with them just to discredit Warski. Warski got really pissed at that. He started to get really emotional, and then he started his new show where he was just gonna like start doing his new shtick, which was essentially challenging people and trying to take them out. And again, make it about himself, like thrusting himself right into the drama and being this fighter that would just is just not going to hold any punches anymore. Um, at that point, he actually got Tonka on his show once again, and from there, he went ahead and he actually and his co-host Geek Thulu challenged Tonka to a fight. But then Tonka was like, "Nah, I'm not gonna fight him. You're nothing. But I will fight Andy." Now between the two of them, between Tonka and Geek Thulu, and it's funny that I bring Geek Thulu up because we'll get to him in a bit. Um, between the two of them, yeah, Geek Thulu's got like more stature than Andy does for sure. I mean, it's like he's taller and he's got like more bulk, even if a lot of that bulk is fat. And but he just decided that, oh well, you're just a co-host, so fuck you. And then he said he don't, but he actually no, he didn't say that completely. He said he'd do it only after he beat Andy, or only if he fought Andy first, or rather. And Andy took him on that challenge, and then, well, a few months later, turns out the internet tough guy ain't so tough, and he just bailed out. He wouldn't sign the papers. Um, Also, like I've been really getting off the topic here a lot, but like there's just been a lot of stuff that I guess I just wanted to get out there, my thoughts on these various situations. Um, so yeah, he doesn't show up at Knoxville. Andy shows up there. He gets up on stage. He um, talks about how much of a bitch Tonkasaw is, and he takes the crown and he wins. And that was the first big success. The second big success was against someone named Ian Miles Chung, who, if you guys recall, I think I remember distinctly that when Ian Miles Chung was getting buddy buddy with everyone, like Sargon and Ralph and everyone else, what happened there was everyone just took it. Everyone just said, "Yeah, Ian Miles Chung is our guy. Let's all support him. Let's all make sure that he's number one." And this resulted in like I don't even know why they did this. Did they forget that this guy was like shitting on all over them? Like he was a self-identified turbo feminist. He was one of these like quote unquote corrupt gaming journals who went ahead, took deals from the company from various companies, like did some shenanigans with Reddit to make himself look good, slandered people, and he just changed. And before all this, everyone would say, "Oh, look at this guy. This guy like a decade or so ago was a Nazi." And they used that as a point to say that like his political ideology is just a selling point, which it absolutely was. He just went ahead and he just changed his tune on a dime. Like, not even this isn't like because people can change their minds. It happens. People see new evidence and then they decide, hey, you know what? I'm not gonna. I was wrong before. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna genuinely go over to this disposition. But this is not the case for Chung. For Chung, every move he makes is for profit. I've seen him go from feminist to Gamergator to like this anti-SJW slash conservative, and to like this internet blood sports guy, and now apparently he's switching back to being a feminist again. And yeah, Kotaku in Action, yeah, they've been just salivating over this, and they've been pretty much, from what I heard, they banned threads criticizing Ian Miles Chung, despite the fact that this is one of the corrupt journals they have on their beloved Deep Freeze wiki. Are you kidding me? And you're not allowed to talk about this guy, despite the fact that this guy, and this gets back to like his beef with Andy. Like, all I have to say is, Ian decided it was a smart idea to swat Andy. Which you could play semantics with that and say, well, it's not really swatting because you just called the cop. Like, look, if you call the cops on the people for a bullshit reason, yeah, it's swatting. He said that Andy was, and yeah, Andy is a flawed human being, but like, he said that Andy was harboring coke, guns, like he was some kind of black arms dealer at his house. And he was schizophrenic, violent, and he was he was possibly going to go ahead and just like shoot something or someone. When I first heard these rumors, I thought to myself, Ian Miles Chung is a snake, a weasel, and all this other stuff, but Andy's just alleging this, and I'm not just going to believe his word on this. And I didn't think it would be true. But then it turned out there was audio recordings of him bragging about it. He was in like Discord chats bragging with people that, yeah, I totally swatted Andy. Like, who would do such a thing? not because it's immoral even, but just because, which it is, but just because it's not smart to brag about it. Like, why would like it's not this won't end well in your favor. Like even if he didn't brag about it, all that Andy was able to get a lot of sympathy. Like even guys who hate his guts, like Kraut, was like, yeah, that's kind of fucked up. And it was just this should be the end of Ian Miles Chun's credibility as far as I'm concerned. He not that he ever had any in the first place, but anyone looking at that and still defending him after that, they're just I don't know. I thought that a lot of people, a lot of times there's a limit to human stupidity, but I'm constantly proven wrong every single day. So yeah, that was the two victories that Andy had in January of this year. So now Andy wants more blood. He wants to get a third guy taken down. He wants to say that yeah, I'm gonna get revenge on my or get due satisfaction out of somebody, and that person was Jared Holt. Which Jared Holt, like that guy, I don't know. Jared Holt's just somebody that's seems to be another. To me, he's not that important at the end of the day. I don't know why people make such a big deal about him. Maybe he's a bigger threat than I'm aware of. I don't know. But from what I've seen, he just gives like his takes on things from a left wing stance from a site called Right Wing Watch, which honestly I don't think it's as big of a threat as people make it out to be. Um, and the stuff he writes about tends to be this internet spurgy shit, which basically could be summaries, but just from a left wing stance, which I don't like liberals or anything or leftists at all. But when it comes to what's his name? When it comes to this sort of stuff, like okay, so as a guy on the internet who's commenting about other nobodies on the internet who are doing spurgy stuff that's entertaining to certain audiences. All right, but apparently guys like Ralph and Warski and other people involved because they get written up about he's a special kind of leftist journalist. They probably couldn't tell you who the other names of anyone else from Right Wing Watch are, but Jared Holt's the guy you got to go after. And the article in question is pretty scummy, I'll admit, though. Like, he's so, like, in this art, like, actually, I think this is a good time to start showing some of this stuff. All right. Okay, so let's just move this over a bit. And just gotta click a few more things and they'll be ready. Okay, there we go. All right, so I think the important bit is the title. Like, I don't want to bore you just reading an entire article that's not very interesting, and you'll see why that doesn't really matter all that much. All right, so you should see it on screen. It's an archive of the article dated 16th of March 2018. So it was the day it was published, so that it's not like it's an updated piece or anything like that, which I don't think it's been updated. So the title of this article is YouTuber beloved by the alt-right bragged about sexually assaulting a drunk woman. Now the objection I have to this is that like it's not like the thing that Andy did was like he talked about, which Andy's later gone on to say it was a joke, but the weird thing about that is he's also saying at the same time that's an event that really happened. So I don't know why he's playing that card. Like, yeah, it could be kind of a joke, but if it happened, it happened. Like, saying it's a joke implies that it's just a joke, which means you made it up. But here, the guy's going as far as to say it's sexual assault. Now, I don't think that now it's not that I like the practice of stealthing sounds pretty sounds pretty scummy, because you're doing something without someone else's permission. You're basically like taking a condom off during the act of sex. That's what it is. But it's not sexual assault, and the laws would agree with me in the United States. Maybe not the case in Canada, but that doesn't matter because Jared Holt is writing in Washington, D.C., so it should be applicable to him. And the argument that it's sexual assault in Canada, it's standing on pretty shaky ground. So to me, this would be slanderous, but I'm not 100% certain if Andy can sue over this. However, it's a pretty ugly and awful statement, and I don't blame Andy for being upset that an article like this is written. I don't know if suing Jared Holt for this article is the correct course of action, though, which Andy says that he's going to do. But JF had a different opinion, and he was one who heavily disagreed with that. In fact, let me get that up real quick. All right. Okay, let's see. All right, just taking a look at the chat real quick. Where is Verilo? Verilo's dead. I don't know what you guys want. Like, he's not. I'm not having any guests on tonight, and I'm not going to be doing calls. That's not that kind of stream. Let me see what else. Let me get that stream up. Let's see. Okay, this will take me a few minutes. All right, so everything seems to be going well. Just need to get that one link. All right. And just to be sure about things. Okay, and it shouldn't appear there. All right. All right, let's not worry about that then. And yeah, if there's some like dead air or whatever, yeah, sorry about that. It has been a long time, and this is the first stream I've hosted where I've been using OBS, which honestly isn't hard at all. Or I should say, it should say the first stream on YouTube on OBS. Let's see. Huh, that's not there. That means it should be here. And bear with me, guys, just one moment. All right, here we go. Perfect. Okay. We're gonna go over JF's reactions real quick. Okay. All right, so let me switch to browser mode so we get to see exactly what JF said. Let me just make sure that's appearing on stream. Okay, even Medicare acknowledged Veril's efforts one time. Yeah, that happened. All right, so JF was told about this by a viewer, and let's just listen to that real quick. Give me 3, 2, 1. And this is playing at 54:42. And I'll actually, I'll just post a link to this directly in the chat. So that way, in case something happens, you can just listen for yourself. Because he says some things here that I agree with and other things that I don't quite agree with.
What was this super chat about? Andy Warski in trouble. Andy Warski. Jared Alt, Jan Alze the sneaky. Jan Malchung act. Jan Malchung acts the victim. Ha ha ha. Jan Malchung tried to silence me. Leaks of Jared Holt slandering Warski. And so your super chat is, I think Andy needs some help, Jeff, like an intervention. He's doing everything wrong, but he's too goddamn dumb to realize it.
Now, if you notice here, JF is rather agitated and uncomfortable with the mention of Warski. And
the problem with Andy is that I cannot fix that.
And he also seems to be upset with his success, because the thing is, Andy has been pulling in better numbers than anyone, Andy has been pulling in better numbers than JF has. That's just a fact. If you look at their stream viewership, it's just the case. So, yeah, given that JF treats Warski as a complete retard who doesn't know what he's doing, and he is, of course, going to be upset with the mention of Warski because it's reminding him that, yeah, he's still relevant, he's still around. And then it also could be that perhaps JF got wind of Warski changing his tune about JF, but I can't substantiate. I can't say that just yet. There's just some things that I've heard that just don't seem right.
Andy, it's in his nature. He is an extroverted drama generator. He will generate drama. I mean, it will be his last breath. He's gonna generate drama in his last breath, and that's what he's good at. He's an emotional being in the world. Remember the song? Right. I'm just a girl in the world, and that's all I'll ever be. Oh, I'm just a girl. Take a good look at me.
Now this is just really autistic there. Like, he just breaks the song right in the middle of that. I mean, that is leading him
to create foam around him in a way that is unsustainable. This is what I would tell Andy. There is an ecological limit to this. And you've already been going down, down, down. Now you're scratching the bottom limit of the internet. Because, why is that? Because the whole Jan Miles Chung thing. All right, a series of multiple hours of live stream. So that's one thing that Andy has improved on. You see, one live stream per day. This is how it's done. Okay, almost one per day. That is good.
All right,
but the problem is, it's big enough. Now, Andy, when he's emotional in these processes, he ends up making all sorts of threats. He's like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to file a police report. And it's all good, but we've never seen that reach realization. Even the one thing that he promised, for example, beating.
Yeah, now this part I have to agree with JF on. Andy does threaten a lot of stuff, and he tries his and he doesn't follow through. That is a weakness that Andy has had for a really long time, and he's been getting better at this. Like, he did actually follow through with Tonkasaw. He did he has been releasing more videos. Like, I'm going to do X, and then he's going to release it. Although he has not released Ian Miles Chung #3, even though he promised to be out, like, I think a couple of weeks ago at this point. So, yeah, let me just continue playing from here.
Tonkasa in an MMA match. It did happen in the sense that Andy he got to the city to do the boxing match, but Tonkasa was not there. That's what happens when you are in such a cloud of...
Now, this point I don't get. Like, Andy did follow through with that. Like, there's no doubt about it. Andy, he promoted the fight. He pumped it up. I believe he played up the drama just to get more attention. He did promotions for it. He worked out. He exercised. He took himself a bit more seriously. In fact, he was seeming a lot happier when he wasn't when he was not smoking or drinking, and he was just actually getting to a regular exercise routine. He was doing quite well for himself. So in this regard, and compared to Tonkasaw is just banning people from chat every day, whining. He was having streams where it was 90% dead air, and he was just digging a bigger hole for himself to the point where he is now. It's just a mess, and he's got, the last I heard, he had less than 20 viewers. So I don't know why he's blamed. I don't know how Andy could be said to have not followed through on that one no, he did. He appeared, he showed up, he did his thing. Now, you could say he just did the bare minimum, possibly, maybe he could have done more, but no, it's not his fault that the fight didn't happen. He never had a guarantee of winning. So, I mean, but he did anyway. But he also did win. So, let's just continue.
Reliable people, that there's no way things will happen. There's no way someone in this circle of the internet has the brains and the resources to maintain a lawsuit. 1 week ago, was begging for money because he had gotten his money stolen by Jan Miles Chung. He was in trouble. You're gonna make me believe that today, Andy Warski has the means to sue Right Wing Watch in court. Do you have any idea the efforts that you will need to deploy as a Canadian to sue Right Wing Watch? You're gonna have.
Now, this point here about suing Right Wing Watch on jurisdictional grounds, yeah, as a point there, he's gonna have to. It's going to be a little bit difficult for him to go ahead and sue him in that. Although that does remind me of something that I did want to show, which I'll pull that up in a bit. Let me just play this a little bit more.
To start a lawsuit in Washington, D.C. against an office that is already ready to receive your lawsuit. You're going to call the lady, and I know all this because I've already done it. You're going to call the lady that's responsible for receiving, you're going to call the, how do they call them? Freaking clerk. You're going to call the clerk of the court, of a local district court. You're going to find that, okay, there is this district court, and it's the district court that will be the jurisdictional entity for Right Wing Watch. You're then going to ask, how do I file something? And she's going to tell you, well, we don't have a fax machine and you cannot send by mail. So you either have to come in person or you have to have the lawyer do it for you. You're going to make me believe that Andy Warski has the money to pay a Washington, D.C. lawyer for an extensive lawsuit involving some form of defamation, when in fact, the whole idea that Jared Holt has defamed Andy Warski legally is doubtful. Even semantically, it's doubtful.
Okay, so right here, JF does have a good point here, that the case against Holt is doubtful, and that's something I explained before. However, it's However, like I said, it's not 100% clear whether or not Andy has a case or not. I think the main thing hinges on whether or not Holt saying that Andy bragged about sexual assault when what he was describing wasn't sexual assault is enough to say, okay, that's a false statement. Andy did not say that he committed sexual assault. Therefore, Holt is responsible for the negative ramifications of that of defamation. If he can win on that basis, I think Andy has a case. If not, then there's just no basis for it because I don't see any defamatory statements the way that Andy was describing the rest of the article. So here, JF actually is correct.
What is the claim here? Andy Warski claims, I have committed stealthing. That is, I have disrupted a condom unknowingly to my partner with the goal of injecting my sperm in her against her consent. Andy Warski makes this admission, and it was kind of a joke, so it's not a comedian pulls that kind of stuff. I'm not going to say I'm dissociating myself from Andy Warski, he's a rapist. No. But if you make the joke, you have to live with the consequences.
Okay, so right here, that quote, there's a reason I love that quote, and it's not because I agree with it. It's because this means JF can never, ever again use "it was just a joke" as an excuse like he did all those months ago. Like, that was his immediate response to Andy after he called him a retard in his own stream. Like, after he told him, I don't need your low IQ interventions. And Andy was just said, what? Or just gave like a very baffled reaction. He said, it's a joke, Andy. And he'd later go on to defend this by saying, oh, it's just French humor. And it was just the most autistic response in the world. And everyone could see that what happened in the moment was Jay Dyer was beating this guy. And that was especially embarrassing because Jay Dyer is a theist and JF is one of these fedora lords. He was getting his ass kicked, and he couldn't take that. And Andy was interrupting with something from chat, which was completely unrelated, and it threw him off. He got mad and he yelled and he said that and he shit in Andy's house. And from there, and doing so, like I said before, he should have just been let go from that. But again, never, like anytime that JF tries to say it was just a joke, just remind him of this standard that he set for himself. If you make the joke, you have to accept the consequences.
The consequences is that if someone else says, look, I look at your stealthing act, and it sounds like rape to me. I've not committed defamation. Here, Andy, why don't you not sue Right Wing Watch? Why don't you sue me? I'm going to say it right here. Sounds like rape to me.
Okay, and here's a point where he's wrong at. Like, there's no way you can just say that, oh, well, this thing that you described or this thing you did, it seems like this heinous crime over there, so I'm just going to say you did that. Then no, that's bullshit. Like, you shouldn't be able to call whatever you want this other thing just because you feel like it. In this particular case, like, you can say that the act of stealthing, like, maybe you could say it should be considered sexual assault. But if it's not actually, but if it's not actually the case, then you like. But even then I wouldn't agree with it because it just isn't. Like, you shouldn't be able to say that thing, like, the act of like taking off a condom while you're having consensual sex with a girl is on level with, I don't know, strapping her down and raping her or drugging her and fingering her or whatever. Like, these are two completely different things. And like to conflate the two like this, it's just disgusting. It's just basically the word games and mental gymnastics that JF likes to play. It's his shtick. And it's also kind of the shtick of feminists when you think about it in a lot of cases. So this is another example of him just being a pseudo-intellectual and trying to get under Andy's skin, which, as we'll get into, unfortunately seems to have succeeded. But we'll get into that in a bit.
It's not that there are no circumstances that can kind of make it look okay for Andy. You could say, well, his girlfriend stayed with him after, therefore she ended up consenting after the fact. Absolutely. But you can have women who stay with people who have raped them at some point, and then they are emotionally attached enough that they decide to stay with their aggressor. The fact is, I've not defamed Andy Warski by suggesting this, and even Jared All did not defame him. It's a fair characterization of what happens when you get an injection of sperm inside of you against your consent. It's not that I'm going to moral fag about it. I don't give a shit. You can stealth all you want. I'm not judging you morally, and I don't care that Andy Warski did that. But for him to be piddling bullshit like, oh,
Yeah, and like he goes on for a bit, but I think you get the gist of it. Like I believe the whole tirade lasts about 15 to 20 minutes. He got really mad at he got reminded of Andy. He got mad that Andy exists still. He got mad that Andy did better than him, and he went on this thing about Andy. Even though he says that he's just insignificant, irrelevant from his stream, and like he can go on to do better and greater things, like um, talk with I don't know, uh, I like Richard Spencer and uh, Frame Games Radio about like the alt-right type ideology, which I don't know. I don't think many people watch a show unless you are inclined to be of that persuasion or ideology. Now, from here, Andy could have easily gone ahead and just. It would have been real easy for Andy to have simply taken the high ground on this one and just waited a day, ignored it, and taken upon himself to um, just wait basically a day before launch his counterattack. Because yeah, he should launch a counterattack, but all he'd have to say in response, like when he first got wind of this, is just, all right, that's just JF's just wrong. He's a knucklehead. He's a pseudo intellectual, whatever. But I don't think that like. But here's the thing: his reaction was not that. His reaction was he got really spurgy, and I think in this case it's going to cost him. I think it has been costing him because as much um as give me one moment, please. As much as JF has been joked about and memed on and made fun of, and as much as he's embarrassed himself further after this, Andy's been taking it worse, I think. Like, his audience in the chat that night, they were not on his side. They were very, very much against him. In fact, it was, and in the comment section, which I actually have one of those comments, which, actually, I will get that now. Like, they were very hostile towards him. They were calling him a snake. They were telling him that he's two-faced and all this other stuff. Now, but why would they be doing that? What was the specific thing that Andy did in the way he responded to JF that made everyone do this? Well, that brings us back full circle to the court cases that I mentioned earlier. And also Knives asks, why is your voice shaking? It's been a while since I last streamed. What can I say? The last that Andy ever talked about the court cases was that JF was totally innocent. He didn't do nothing. He was a good boy. He was a victim of the system, and just reiterated JF's bizarro MRA talking points, which was that all the courts and psychologists and lawyers and police officers involved and the family involved and all the witnesses but me is telling the truth about this matter. And I'm not just some dude who goes about and tries to have sex with women that are just 19 years old while in my 30s and, who are clearly retarded and can't take care of themselves and tries to go through these autistic court cases to keep them as my little pet. And it's just, and yeah, Andy was retarded for trusting JF, like completely retarded. The only thing I can really conclude is that Andy has a very bad judge of character. Like I mentioned before, like a bunch of the people he's gone after, Tonka Saw, Ian Miles Chung, Anal Vape, a lot of people, they were friends with him. Like these people that he went ahead, like that he stabbed, like that he has had drama and beef with later on. He was best of buds with him, like with them, and he considers and at the point that he defended JF, he was friends with them. Now here's the weird thing though. Let me pull up a clip and then I'll play it. And I do have the timestamp prepared for this one, so let me just get that up real quick. Okay, here we go. No, that's not it. Okay. All right. So I believe it was at, if I'm not mistaken, okay. Let me just test something for something real quick. Sorry, I do have this prepared. Just give me one quick second. Pause
Okay,
this real
so
quick.
people. Okay, how about this?
Close this,
That will wrap up soon, but let's.
and then skip.
Okay, so people. Okay, how about this?
All right. So like I said before, Andy did delete this stream, but there's been mirrored and copied by other people before it was taken down. So let me just go to the appropriate timestamp. And that would be okay.
On his position, no, because JF
Okay, here we go. Here we go.
through.
All right, let me just make sure this is correct. That would be, all right, so let's just shift scenes here. Here we go. I'll press play.
In these intense moments of fucking just attacks, and he's also a good friend of mine. And if you're not a fucking asshole and you aren't a piece of shit pedophile asshole, then he won't fucking be an asshole to you. The end. Now that it's become convenient, he doesn't want JF for the longest time. Not a fucking asshole and you aren't a piece of shit pedophile asshole, then he won't fucking be an asshole to you. The end.
Speed this up a bit.
Causality for 5, and he,
right
he defended JF for the longest time over the court case, and now that it's become convenient, he doesn't want 80 on his position. No, because JF never showed me it, and Zoom did. So I'm gonna believe the papers over the. Andy, believe me, the father came in and fought me. I won the court's case when I just read the fucking court saying you denied.
Now this is really weird here, and this is what part of what motivated me to like do this stream. Like, why is Andy just going ahead and chastising his chat for believing JF when, for the longest time, he's been believing JF, and he's the one who's changed his mind based on like the court papers, which he's referenced before, which he's talked about on stream before, which he's talked about on Twitter before, which he's also like read, which he's also read a couple of statements from. I mean, let's take a look at that. In fact, let's take a look at this image here. It's been spread around. Now this is an image someone took who's following David Shitrat, or David Chirat, to be accurate. And in this case, David Chirat's not wrong, surprisingly. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's still a faggot, but ultimately, he's not incorrect when he's pointing this out to Andy here. And this is what Andy says. You piece of garbage. The doctor said she was high functioning. You now pull slander. Prove your words. You are disgusting for accusing someone of rape. Then Andy responds with, the court-appointed psychologist said she was unable to consent. And then it goes on with the court papers, which I'll read some of. As for the question of capacity, an incapacitated person is an adult individual because of physical or mental condition, is substantially unable to provide food, clothing, or shelter for himself or herself. And it basically goes on to say that she's mentally incapable of making her own decisions. And that would include being able to consent to sex, being able to make living lifestyle choice, etc., which inevitably led her to her being made a ward of the state. And his response is to this, Andy's response is, that's the lawyer, you moron. We went over this. Go over the page of the actual doctor. You just accused someone of rape. And Charette responds with, this is from the psychiatrist's evaluation from the court-appointed psychologist. Now, like, what's up with the deal here? Andy, you heard Andy before. He said he didn't read the papers until Zoom showed him. But here he is arguing with him about the papers. Like, is this just him just believing JF? I don't know, but I only really have his word to go by. Maybe he's just that retarded, where he just trusts people this level to this blindly. But here he is saying, dude, did you just mix up the actual statements? You are sick. Get the actual full page from the doctor. We did this live on screen share and read everything. Now, this is really weird. It's really weird for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it means that Andy kind of left out that he did read a bit of the court documents. I mean, he technically didn't read them, sure, but he did read some of them. He probably should disclose that he was going off JF's word, and also that he read some of it, and he thought it was enough. Maybe he could further elaborate that he was just basing this on JF's understanding of things, and he wasn't using his head, and he was just being retarded, but he should have mentioned this. And it's not just a one-time thing either. Over here, I mean, this is actually the same thing. Just this is an archive of that tweet. This is a tweet itself as it appears now. Okay, so this archive. No, not this one. All right, give me a second, please. All right, here we go. This is Andy lecturing someone else about not reading the court papers, which is just kind of ironic, all things considered. Here's an archive. Here's the archive of that previous tweet again. This is Kevin Logan, of all people. This is Kevin Logan saying, Andy, just admit it, dude. You do a show with a fucking rapist. There is no shame in admitting you were wrong. There is great shame in doubling down and defend a sexual abuser in order to save face. And don't like Kevin Logan, but he's correct here. And Andy's response is, I read the doctor's documents live. You are sick. I mean, it's kind of weird. It's really, really weird situation that Andy's put himself in. Okay, there's more of that. Okay, here we go. This is the one I want to show because this one shows the archive, not just a screenshot of what happened. And this one's really interesting here because David Charette isn't going against Andy. He's lecturing Chung, who I just went over, turned out to be a guy who'd eventually swat Andy. And Charette says, you're really defending JF now? The court documents themselves show he committed statutory rape. You always find a new low. And this is a response to Ian saying, I wonder how long before the Daily Beast writes a hit piece on Warski or Tonka, which is true. The Daily Beast did write a piece on, oh, actually, no, this is in reference to a piece that came out about JF by the Daily Beast, which we might get to that later, or a bit. And Andy's response is, you piece of garbage. The doctor said she was high functioning. You now pull slander? Prove your words. You are disgusting for accusing someone of rape. And then Charat's response is, the court-appointed psychologist said she was unable to consent, and this is the thing from before. And yeah, on arguing these points. And these people are lecturing him. And for whatever reason, Andy decided not to investigate this further or just to correct the record or admit fault. And, like, as far as I can tell, there's not really much of defense for this. I mean, when you go ahead and you don't look at evidence and people are showing you the evidence that's being presented, like, it's just, why would you go ahead and argue a case where you don't know any of the facts? Why would you go ahead and read something and listen to an allegation, read these allegations and then just say, hey, like, what was it? You would go ahead, you'd read these allegations, and then you respond. You don't even read the allegations. You don't even read the evidence that's backing them up. You don't read the claims or go through them. You just blindly trust your friend there. And when it's shown that when you do read part of it, and that part that you're reading you get grossly incorrect, you double down, which is what Andy did. And then Andy's lecturing people to read the documents and they're ignorant. It doesn't end here either, though, because I actually tried to ask Andy for his side of things on the Twitters. Let me get that. Here I ask, Andy, you're on record stating you never read the court documents. Mind explaining this right here? Link the tweet. He responds with, and then I stayed up all night reading them. And then I respond with, rather confusedly, at what point did you read them? Because you had claimed you never read them last week, and on March 15, 2018, said you read everything on a live stream. Which is it? Then he replies with, then I read it while not online, which is another weird and bizarre statement. So your statement back in March was the correct one? If so, can you link the stream where you screen shared the documents and read them live? Which, I don't know what's up with that. That's really, really weird. That he never responded to this. He just left it empty and open the air. So, all I can really conclude is one of two things. Either Andy is lying about having not read the court documents, or he's telling the truth and he's just really this naive and he's living in a glass house. In either case, like, it's not a good look for Andy, and at the very least, he owes all the people that he told to go away and fuck off, he owes them an apology, frankly, because they turned out to be correct. And yeah, that would mean Andy would owe guys like Kevin Logan and David Shitrat and Destiny and others an apology. And that should be shameful for him because those people are of ill repute and for good reason. So that's what I have to say about that. And I also don't like that and also, and yeah, there was also one other thing I wanted to point out in this that happened. Because it just gets weirder from here. Actually, there's some more things that I should probably mention on. Start with another bit from the stream. Right here. Let me post this in the chat as well, in case you guys want to look over it later for yourselves. Okay, pause this. Find the stream. Hey guy says, talk about fight. Talk about how right y'all were. Oh yeah, me and a bunch of other people back in the day, we called out a lot of this bullshit from these E-celebs way back when. And we were slandered, we were ignored, we had people doing gay ops against us before that was even coded as a term. We had a lot of shit thrown our way, and nobody bothered to step in. It wasn't like in the case of harmful opinions where he got shit on too, and he was pointing out a bunch of this bullshit, and then other guy stepped in and said, well, harmful opinions, he shouldn't have gotten done that way. Nah, that didn't happen for us. There's a bunch of people I could mention, but I don't think that's not really the point of the stream. But yeah, for the record, we were right. These people, and when I say these people, I'm not just talking about the skeptics. I mean, like, a lot of these YouTubers, they're really pieces of shit. Like, that's what it comes down to. A lot of them do a lot of snaky things, a lot of lying, a lot of a lot of hypocrisy, a whole lot of degeneracy. And they're just complete hypocrites about it. I mean, hell, just last week, Mercedes Carrere turned out to be a pedophile. I didn't even see that one coming, to be frank. That's really disturbing. Although perhaps we should have, because, well, she was a super degenerate. But in any event, because I don't want to talk about that too much. Let me get to this bit here. And this is at 2 hours, 2 minutes, and 48 seconds in on a stream of where he announced he was going to sue Jared Holt that I linked in the chat. And I'm going to play it for you after I switch things over. There we go. And press play.
JF won. Yeah, he won the audience that want to hear about Jews all the time. Fine, fair enough. I don't fucking care. Holy shit. God damn. Oh, hey, Baked. Guess what? Jews control banks.
Now, this is another thing that struck me as odd. and this is probably why he deleted the stream. This bit here at this moment. Why is he like? It's just poetic. It's absolutely poetic because Baked Alaska, another guy I called out, another guy I said was complete cancer, and that people shouldn't be paying any goddamn attention to him. What is this guy like? He's doing the exact same thing that led to Baked Alaska's fall from grace. He's going ahead and taking the audience that he exploited to build himself up and make himself the guy he is. Granted, a lot of that popularity sunk to the bottom, but nonetheless, he still did this. He still went to the alt-right and said, "Hey guys, come to me. I'll give you guys a platform, and I think you guys are cool. You're not getting a fair hearing. Let's talk about the issues." That was Andy's stance when it came to the alt-right. But now he's just done a 180 on that. Like right here, he's just told the alt-right, "Go fuck yourselves. I don't want to hear about Jews all day." And essentially saying that you can't criticize the Jews in any capacity whatsoever. I mean, not even if their home country is, well, I'm not going to get into that. This is just the sheer hypocrisy that this guy can go ahead and just do that. I don't think he's aware of it. I don't think he is, because he's just not that capable to be that calculating. That he goes ahead and he just does the same thing, and even like invites the guy who's famous for doing this right on his show. Like after he, that's just amazing to me. And honestly, I do believe this is why he took down the stream, because he spurred out, because there's a lot of him going after JF for a lot of stuff here, and he overreacted, and he said some really stupid shit like this. Like, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't treat your audience like shit, to be frank. It's not going to bode well for you in the long run. And I think this was, and yeah, I don't see a lot of people talking about this in particular. And let me pull up another thing real quick here. That's on the same topic. Let's see. He also did a video on Twitter about this, and this did not look good either. Let me just play it real quick. Okay.
All right,
let's pause this and play it. This is right after the stream ended, after he deleted the stream, and he's responding to all the flack he was getting in the comments.
All right, this is for all the JF fans, his hug box, who are all disappointed.
To be fair here, JF does live in the hug box. If you go to his Discord server and you talk any kind of shit that's too edgy or too toxic or too problematic, you will be banned. Especially if it's a joke at JF's expense, he will ban you like that. And just like he'll block anyone who dares criticize him for anything, which is pretty fucking pathetic for a alpha male.
Disappointed in me. Why did you go after JF? Why did you go after JF? Huh, Andy? Oh man, look, you used to be. He said on his show that I deserve to be called a rapist everywhere, the way it is. I deserve to have the slander, when you type my name in, the thing that says Andy Warski's a rapist, because I made a rape joke. He says I deserve that.
And also, to be fair here, yeah, I don't think Andy deserves to be called that. So, moving on.
And then he starts going on and on with his list of basically the same insults that he can only think of. Low IQ and this and that. You don't have the resources. You didn't ask to review it first, so you didn't think. When we're not talking about the current article, we're talking about the first article a year ago where he doesn't even know what he's talking about. But my point is, he says I deserve to be called a rapist for a rape joke. He says the most insulting things ever. Tries to stand on top of me, oh, look, I'm Papa JF. And then I go after him and smash him, and then people are like, I'm disappointed in you? Okay, you're disappointed that I stood up for myself. Well, listen, I'm a man and I will stand up for myself. So, however infatuated you are with your high IQ superior who can only fuck potatoes, that's all he has. All the court documents are all this creepy shit.
All right, I'm just gonna stop it right here because you get the point of just of what he's saying. The problem for Andy though is that he used the same like he gave JF a pass on this for the longest time. And yeah, his audience is going to be confused by that because like, what the fuck? Why are you attacking JF on this? Like you've been saying that JF's been slandered because of this. You told people that were you told people that went against him to fuck off, etc. Like I don't get like that was that was that like I don't blame his audience for going ahead and like being hostile towards Andy. I really can't. That's really how it came off. And to be frank, I think I'm being rather fair to Andy, like maybe overly fair to Andy by saying that he's not being like not just coming on here and decrying him as a snake myself. Like it's a case of where the guy's been like you can't tell people for such a long time one thing and then switch gears and expect them to just go along with it without any kind of real explanation other than, oh well, some guys told me some things about JF and JF told me some of those things and JF told me those things were false, so I believed them. But then Zoom came and he told me, like, I mean, I think Zoom's been doing good work with this JF case. In fact, I do recommend people see it. And I don't know. It's just I don't think Andy should be surprised to get such backlash, and I also think that Andy could have handled this far better than he did if this is just all basically a big misunderstanding like he's trying to make it out to be. He's doing a really bad job explaining it. Or if I want to take the worst possible interpretation, then yeah, he's just doing it for personal benefit. Someone in the chat says, but he saw the new docs. It changed his entire opinion conveniently after Jeff offered him. Like maybe some of the new information helped change his mind. There's a timing thing that I don't know about. And there's some other information I don't know, like what was the stream he was referring to. Yeah, I did pick up. Okay, yeah, I did pick up a bit of sarcasm there. But I just wanted to address this point because some people might unironically bring it up. And also to the second one, it changed his entire opinion conveniently after JF offended him. Yeah, the timing is convenient. It really is. It's like you get insulted in a live stream and then you go ahead and you just do a 180 on your previous positions like that. I mean, come on, dude. We're like that's a little too convenient, which made me look into this a little bit further. And I believe the proof is in the pudding that, yeah, there's a clear error. Like, okay, so the nice interpretation is that there's a clear error in the way that Andy operates and functions. He's way too trusting. He has a very poor judge of character, and he lets people hoodwink him again and again and again and again, and leads him to make big mistakes that lead him to doing things like saying people who attack JF for this for being a rapist are slanderers, and then going ahead and then saying that and then either saying that those same allegations are correct a year later, just at a very convenient timing. And that's why I'm not here like trashing people that are using the allegations. Like I like the allegations are true. Like this criticism doesn't apply to people like Zoom who have been consistent with this, who have said that yeah, this guy is a rapist and gone after him on that. Good for them. I hope that they go ahead and they make as many people aware of JF's creepy and disgusting ways as possible. Because fuck that guy. But when it comes to Andy, like the one redeeming thing I'll give him here, the one point I'll give him, I believe I said this on Twitter as well. He's doing everything he can now to destroy JF. So unless it's proved like, so he might be able to give him a pass. But even if people forgive him, they should um, not forget. They should not forget that he's had this pattern of behavior, that he has had this pattern of behavior in the past, that he's likely to keep doing it, and it's not very likely that he won't relapse, you know? So that's kind of a large part of the point I wanted to make with this stream. And yeah. All right, so I'm going to read off a couple comments in the chat before I go over to a couple, some of the more, some of the cringy JF stuff that followed after this. Those Zoom streams are gold. Yep, you can see them on StreamMe at stream.me/GodspeedLive. Go ahead and check it out. Great show. Zoom is not a good person, mate. Zoom's done some things that I think are questionable, sure. Some things that, but at the same time, though, like, he's done a lot to, like, expose a lot of these people that are just either creepy degenerates or scam artists or a combination thereof. So, yeah. Like the thing to remember, like, so that's my thought on that. What else is there? All right, so there's a couple of other, oh yeah, I did say we look at some JF stuff. Give me a second, let me just pull that up. Yeah, I had a fun little interaction with JF recently. It involved his, one of the comments he posted to Twitter from his YouTube chat. Let me just bring that up. Here we go. All right. Okay, let me do that and screen share that. Okay. So this is what JF decides to post to Twitter, and he thought this was a really good comment to, like, spread out there. It's regards to this very scandal. Beehole asks, serious question, JF. Why do you keep trying to have babies with low IQ women? Not trolling here, honestly interested. JF responds, I will work with the assumption that you are asking the question in good faith and provide you an answer. The answer is that your premise is false. I have women as partners of all intellectual levels, many hundreds of them. You are simply making an obsession about those who were not intelligent for some reason, which reveals more about you than it does about me. Get fixed and clean your room. It's not normal for a teenage or adult-aged man to care that much about the sexual success of other males. Yeah, that's his great take. Just a Jordan Peterson-esque, really got him type answer. So here is my response to that. You've slept with many hundreds of women, not just the two potatoes we know of, plus your ex-wife. You're 5'6". Get real. And his response is just to block me, because he's a beta male. He can't take the bants. This guy can't handle it. And I think that the more he got involved with blood sports, the more he became aware of it, which is why he took out the current hug boxing mentality he has. And the reason he had to make that comment in the first place is because one peculiar habit I've noticed with JF is that he keeps having to reaffirm his masculinity. He calls himself Papa JF to make himself a father figure. He keeps on bragging about how many women he can bang, etc. When at the end of the day, he can't even have custody over his own kid, and he can't fuck a woman that isn't some brain dead retard. And that's the truth of the matter. So, yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. And he's also made some other comments like that have been spread around and posted elsewhere. But there's also one more character I want to talk about tonight. That'd be Geek Thulu. Geek Thulu, like, let's take a look at that guy, because he's someone that's always struck me as one of these kind of weirdos that never really gets anywhere. Kind of was part of this, maybe kind of sort of was part of like rung a few circles that were questionable. But I always kind of had to give him the benefit of the doubt in my overall analysis of the guy, because I couldn't pin him on anything because there was allegations for sure, but there wasn't anything that I saw that was wrong. But he does another kind of snaky, kind of Judas type move that is really damning. And actually, I'll let Warski say it this time because you know what? I think Warski's 100% correct when it comes to this guy, at least now. Which, again, it should be noted that Warski trusted this guy, which is dumb. But still, I don't think that this was deserving. So let me look it up. All right, look up videos. Here we go. Okay, so this is a bit cringy, and some of you may find this reaction from Andy funny, but I'll explain why I think this is pretty scummy on Andy's part in a sec. But before I do, who is in this pool of degenerates? Look at the skeptifags. Emphasis on the fag part. All right, so let's pause this, and we'll switch to browser mode. There we go. And I'll just play it, and make sure the volume's on. Good.
Okay, so there's these leaks about me having a panic attack, which I did have a panic attack. This is about 3 days ago. And what happened was, or 4 days ago, whatever. And what happened was people were posting pictures to make me pissed off and angry of my little sister when she was a baby naked on a beach beside my grandpa. Okay? Babies on beaches naked or whatever. Now they're like, oh, a pedo grandpa. It's a baby on the beach naked. But then they were memeing it, okay? And call it, just back.
Okay, yeah, I gotta say, this is really cringy. Like, I mean, shit's gonna happen. Nasty, horrible shit's gonna happen to you if you make yourself if you put yourself out there. That's just gonna happen because you're on the internet, and people like to fuck with people on the internet, and they also like to make fun of popular people online. So yeah, like you going to boards that are specifically making fun of you and having a panic attack over that, it's pretty pathetic. Like that is a pretty big low, but at the same time, why are you doing that? Just don't. But let's continue.
Bashing my grandpa, saying whatever, all that stuff, and it was disgusting. My sister has a baby naked, and it was in the morning. It was right after all this fucking constant being attacked, right? So I had a panic attack, and I was talking to Geek about it, okay? And this is the grandpa who just died, okay? He just passed away, and I got very emotional. I was very emotional, okay? I told Geek, and instead of him being a friend and be like, oh, it sucks, and just... So another friend of mine actually went through the motions of me having like that panic attack and calmed me down. It was Zoom. He was just, you're relaxed, buddy, da-da-da, I understand. And it was cool. So Geek, when I brought it up to him, he's like, well, maybe if you weren't online all the time and da-da-da, and you were, and if I blocked him, because Geek, I'm like, dude, what a friend. Anytime he had a problem, I would listen. He had tons of...
Also, just to be fair to Geek real quick, yeah, you shouldn't be online all the time. Like, Andy, when you were exercising, not smoking, not drinking far less than you do now, etc., we're doing a lot better. Gonna say, like, what Geek does next is pretty shitty, but yeah, he gave you good advice there. Just saying.
The problem, you'd have fucking anger bouts and stuff, which I understand, because sometimes the internet makes you mad, right? And I had his back, and then when I have a fucking issue, he just blames it on me, constantly. Like, oh, like, why is Geek working with you? Why? Well, I don't know, maybe because I bought him a PS4, and he plays 15 hours of video games a day and doesn't respond to my messages, and then when I bring it up, he blames it on me, saying I didn't message him. I'm not a babysitter. So he's saying he's saying he didn't leak it, which who else would have leaked it? So I apologize, I had a panic attack because of that's a disgusting picture. There you go. That's the story.
All right. So so Geek decided to take him when he was at a low and take his messages to him and just post them out there just because he got blocked. And yeah, this has been embarrassing for Andy, and after this happened, they just put more attention to Andy. So Andy trusted Geek, and Geek took that trust, and these two have built a relationship for like over a year, and he shat all over it. Now, but how do we know? How do we know that this isn't false? I mean, like this could have been a group conversation, like maybe Andy post leaked them himself to make himself a victim. We got to consider that. Um, well, we know that this isn't the case because if we read in the comments here, let's go down further. This is interesting. Let me take a real quick gander at this. Andy, that is not how that conversation went down. No, it actually, well, let's see. Hold on, this might change something a bit. Yo, Tree of Logic thanked me for getting her off the site. Cool. No, let me, probably should say who's reading this. All right, so this appears to be a conversation between Geek and Andy. I'll go over this later, maybe another stream, because I still don't like what Geek did. Let's see. All right, so this was Geek's response. Those screenshots are real. I did send them to a couple people saying I need to help Andy and give him advice against this lawsuit, as they called it. I told them I tried and was blocked. They didn't believe me. I showed them in full context. Also, I did not link them on Cow. Now this last part here, I did not leak them on Cow. That doesn't matter. Andy's telling the truth when he says you leaked them. Like, your friends don't really have a responsibility not to share them after you spread them, because for all they know, you're just going to spread them to other people. It was you who had the onus to not let them get out there in the first place, and all you had to do was not screen cap what your friend was telling you. And you want to play like, oh well, it's okay because he was just trying to prove a point. Like, he was just trying to say, oh well, they didn't believe me, so I had to show them, and I'm not really believing that. Like, at least that may have been the case, but I'm not saying that he's telling the truth here because I did a little bit of digging into this guy. Actually, no, it wasn't just a little bit of digging. This is what caught my attention, this message here. Geek did the same thing to me, recorded me freaking out, and then had a listening party of the audio. Geek said he was hacked, and that's how the audio was leaked. Weird it was leaked to only a VC in his Discord. And let's see, I believe, and give me a moment. Because I did, let me just go to my Twitter real quick. We'll just do it this way. And then this was Geek's response, which I screenshotted. She isn't lying. I did record her. I recorded her and everyone that was talking to her and trying to stop her from sending her name, address, phone, and nudes to someone that was threatening to dox her. I also played it in front of the people that were involved because she was being batshit crazy, screaming while we were all calm and trying to help her. Trust me, this one is bonkers, running a void. Just a week ago, she was asking me for help to produce a show for her after she went around and lied about me and others in my server. I'll record you if you have a history of dishonesty and being shady as fuck. Basically saying one thing in private and another in public. Okay, so here's the issue with this. Like, why is he recording her, like, going into all this? Like, okay, so according to Geek, this woman is crazy and she has issues. Now, just for, like, sure, that's what people have. They have issues that they deal with, but why is he recording it and then releasing it everywhere? Because it's just funny? Like, if that's his prerogative, like, I can't, well, that's his prerogative, but this guy's trying to play like, oh, I'm just an innocent person in all this. This is what I do. When realistically, like, this kind of leverage that people like to do with these secret recordings and shit like that, that's a real dick move. It's really low. Like, I don't care if the person was super crazy or, oh, she was dishonest. Like, okay, she was dishonest, but you just said she was just acting crazy. That's not really dishonesty. That's just her being insane. If what you're saying is true, I'm not trying to throw this person under the bus. I mean, I didn't hear the recordings myself, but here's Geek admitting that he's done the same thing that he did to Andy to someone else. But it looks like in this case, it was worse. And it doesn't stop there. There's another case I found of him doing this. And it's always the same thing. He finds some private info, shares it with his friends, and have a laugh at their expense. And and it just seems to be the same kind of shitty behavior. And frankly, that's not cool. That's not a good thing to do. In fact, it's not even funny. So I don't even get why he's doing it. Other than just to like, get his rocks off, because that's the thing. There's a certain breed of trolls that are just not funny. They don't even qualify as trolls. They're failed trolls. They're A-logs. They just try to hurt people in any malicious way possible, usually due to some kind of personal vendetta. And Geek Cthulhu seems to be one of those people. Let's listen to this real quick, because this is also demonstrates the point with a third example.
Why, G says, why do people in your server record people without their knowledge? Well, if you're in a general chat, you have no expectation of privacy.
And let's up this up.
And by the way, that recording that you're in, where I'm yelling at you because you're being a fucking idiot, that wasn't us recording it. That was somebody else. Yes, I seen the video, G. Yeah.
Okay, let's slow it down a bit because my internet's not really doing well with this. Put it back to 144.
Yeah, that was not us recording you. We generally don't record that often. The only time when we record is when something fucking really weird
Yeah, guys, we only do it sometimes.
pops off, and that's when we record it.
May 19th, 2018, 11:21 p.m. Seeing as, once again, I cannot actually type in your worthless Discord server, I'll shoot this over here for you, pal. I'm still playing catch up on your shit stream from earlier, but I love that you flat out lied about the G recording by claiming it wasn't your own that recorded that conversation. So Roy, need a handle for fuck's sake, isn't your boy? He's not one of yours? Because you know he's on the recording admitting that he recorded the entire audio, and you're on the same recording congratulating him for doing such a good job. Want timestamps as proof, or... Stellar job of being dishonest as always, cuck.
Well, I changed it back that you can type. Someone else did it when I changed it. Hit me with a timestamp and link.
Yeah, I figured it wasn't you. I'll be right back with that timestamp. There's your timestamp. 3 hours, 10 minutes, 13 seconds.
There's nothing funny about him, but he decided to go on a stream and rant that I'm a danger to Rose, Cody, and Emma. And if anything happens and I get those kids taken away from their mother, he's gonna come after me. So we're gonna talk
Well,
about
Rose did that on her own.
Of course she did.
So guys,
Let's see.
wouldn't it be a shame if somebody just recorded the past 3 hours and 10 minutes and 25 seconds?
Well, let me
Well done.
explain how this works. Robbie did an interview
Thank you
with
very much.
Rexy.
That's why Roy is the man.
Robbie did an interview with Rexy.
Okay, didn't remember it. Your point? I didn't remember it because I didn't actually record it. I just asked Roy if he did, and he said he did after you linked it. You really care an awful lot about any of this shit.
That wasn't us recording it. That was somebody else. Yes, I seen the video. Yes, I seen the video. Yes, I seen the video. Yes, I seen the video.
So there you have it. He gains people's trust, so basically he can take private information and then use it against them later as leverage. He's done this 3 times with 3 different people. Like, that's really scummy, and Andy was stupid for trusting this guy. And another thing I'd like to point out here, though, like, I don't think the takeaway from this should be never, ever, ever record somebody, but rather don't lie about it. Don't, like, after the fact, don't actually act like you didn't do nothing, you're an innocent party in all this. Because all that shows is that you're trying to gain, it's not that you're, like, recording in, like, a public Discord with, like, 20-something people in the voice chat. Then, hold on, give me a second. But rather, you're gaining people's trust, and then you're going ahead and recording them when they think that nobody's listening or no one's peeking in. And then you go ahead and you play that to laugh at your buddies and potentially elsewhere. All right, well, I guess that's, no, that is all the points I really wanted to get out there. There may be some I'm overlooking, forgetting. Maybe I didn't go into some things as in-depth as I wanted to, but also I don't want this stream to go on for more than 2 hours, which I think that I kept within the time frame. Also, if there is, I'm going to link a Discord in the chat because I have one of those now. And if people want to join and like provide other information based on anything that I discussed here, they can. Maybe I got something wrong. Maybe maybe I got something wrong, or maybe I didn't know something as well as I should have, or maybe it's just that I didn't have what else is there? Or maybe someone looked at worse than they actually did because of some other information I wasn't aware of. Maybe someone is even worse than they are. Maybe something else tangentially related. But feel free to join, and you can correct me on anything that I got wrong, or just leave a comment. Or you can even contact me on Twitter, since I have one there for some reason, at JMKACC. Type that in the chat real quick. And actually, if there's any questions here for me now about any of the topics I talked about, go ahead. Feel free to shoot them. And I'll wait about 5 or so minutes. I think I'll do another stream. I think I'll make this a weekly thing rather than just doing this as a one-off, and try to comment on these things more regularly, since I pay way too much attention to this stuff to not be creative about it, or at least not not comment on it some kind of a public way. Otherwise, it's just kind of like spinning my wheels at that point. All right, so let's see. Okay, so with no questions in the chat, I think I'll close things down. Oh, another thing, like if you have any suggestions, oh, one more thing. If you guys would prefer that I like we take this over to Streamy, let me know what your thoughts are about that. One of the stream ideas I had for actually was a stream on Streamy itself, because people have talked about like have either fallen into one or two camps. They've either said, haha, Ralph's over there and he's not on YouTube, or oh, streaming is going to be the best new thing ever, which I have my doubts about that. Maybe they're correct, maybe they're not so incorrect. I know Jim has a morning show over there now. I haven't actually watched a single episode of that. From what I gather, it's about Jim's evolution to becoming a weeb, essentially, or at least that's what the rumors say. I don't know if that's true or not. You can feel free to correct a record on that one if that's not true. Oh, and apparently he's also been talking about Warhammer, which, okay, that's cool. Any other things I want to point out? Oh, there is one thing I'll talk about streaming real quick before shutting this down. Yeah, there was, actually, nah, save it for that stream. So yeah, that'll be the next stream's topic. I'll be talking about streaming itself. And it'll happen 8 o'clock next week on Sunday. So that's Sunday the 24th at 8 p.m. I think that's a good time. Although, yeah, we'll just make this a regular thing, and we'll try for 8 o'clock on Sundays. Unless anyone in the chat has any other time that they would prefer, which I could accommodate for that, which, so long as it's not during the week, because I'm very busy nowadays. Crablike says, I like Streamy, but it needs more people producing content there. 100% agreed. I think that there's a lot of samey kind of content. And in addition to that, yeah, I do think that people should be producing different kinds of stuff, because the top shows seem to be kind of just talking about drama-related stuff, with the probable exception of Jim, who's talking about, well, he seems to be moving on to other things. But yeah, just to reiterate, next Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and I'll be talking about streaming on that day. All right, that wraps everything up for realsies this time, and you all have a good night, and I will see you on the next show.